Welcome back to Crossroads. I'm David Schuster.
And I'm Derek Dennis. The gun debate is front and center on Capitol Hill once again, and the main focus is talk of banning so-called bump stocks.
That's a device that the Las Vegas gunman used to make his rifles act like machine guns. It has prompted an unexpected statement from the National Rifle Association calling for additional regulations on the device. Correspondent Maggie Rulli has the story.
After 58 people were gunned down by one shooter in Las Vegas late Sunday night, the conversation about gun control has even been joined by the NRA. In an unexpected statement, the NRA believes that devices designed to allow semi-automatic rifles to function like fully automatic rifles should be subject to additional regulations. Referring to the controversial bump stocks, the Las Vegas gunman had 12 rifles modified with these attachments, allowing his rifles to act like an automatic weapon, almost like a machine gun. This gun store owner in Reno says his store is now almost entirely sold out.
A lot of people have been calling in to buy those because they're sure they're going to be outlawed.
Right now, bump stocks are legal and cost around $100.
And the goal is to prohibit these deadly devices that caused so much death and destruction.
A Republican, Florida Representative Carlos Curbelo says he will introduce a bipartisan bill in the House to put a total ban on bump stocks.
We have to act now, and we're not going away. We've told the families we have to pass something.
Yet this view is far from unanimous.
I don't think that the 80 or 90 million Americans who exercise their Second Amendment rights to own a gun should be punished for the act of one evil person.
And that was Maggie Rulli reporting.
Plenty to debate here, so let's get into it. Ethan Bierman, host of the Ethan Bierman Show, is here along with Tom Borelli, a contributor for the Conservative Review. And Tom, a bit of a twist today. The NRA calling for at least restricting, regulating bump stocks to modify how fast guns can fire. Right. We weren't expecting that. It's a bit of a twist.
Yeah, I think it is a little bit of a twist, but I think my always concern is when we rush to regulate, we need to really take a step back and look at the bigger picture. One of my big concerns is actually hotel security. I mean, the man had a really great shooting position, and what I found really interesting was he had a do not disturb sign on his room for 3 days. So an easy solution from a hotel's perspective for this type of issue, which is a big concern now, would be to make sure that they get maid service, at least somebody goes in the room at least once or twice a day, would help mitigate that. The other issue that's getting absolutely no attention is he had 50 pounds of explosives. Where's the discussion on explosives? So I think we need to take a little pause and look at the big picture before we start to run to regulate.
Well, but it sounds like you're asking though for regulations on hotels and people who...
No, it could be done. It would be in the hotel's best interest to make sure that they're protecting their property and people around them by a simple procedure. You've been in Vegas, they got cameras all over the place. There's cameras in every hallway, and there's always a maid service, room service. At least should be at least once or twice a day someone going through. It's not a perfect solution, but it is a good step.
Ethan, how about a little patience in all of this?
I don't think we've had enough. We're so done with patience. Yeah. Prayers and thoughts every time. 33,000 people a year. Granted, roughly 2/3 are suicides. That still leaves 11,000, 12,000 homicides a year. Done with the prayers and the thoughts. The mass shootings are happening. Let's do something about it. Look, just saying, well, boy, it's on the hotels. It has nothing to do with the fact that bump stock has no purpose other than to make your firearm into an automatic weapon. Look, I'm a firearm owner. I served in the military. I understand what this is about, and it's about us not killing people as readily as possible.
And it's hard to argue with. I mean, we've heard the video of the rapid succession of gunfire. If we didn't have the bump stocks and the ability to modify these weapons, we may not have heard that, and we may not have as many people killed. At least that's the thought out there. And the NRA, with its talk today, seems to be falling in line.
And it's also, by the way, insane when somebody talks about, oh, the bump stock and automatic weapons make it inaccurate. You're absolutely right. And the point was, he was pointing at 22,000 people. You don't have to be accurate at all. Anything that automates a semi-automatic should be absolutely banned by law. Any future invention, any substitute invention, including the bump stock, absolutely should be gone and confiscated.
But we also know that evil people will always find evil things.
So let's not make it easy for them. Let's make it very hard for them.
And, you know, gun control is nice in theory, but just look at Chicago. Among the strongest gun control laws, and yet in 2016,
but Indiana doesn't.
16,
so you just come right across from Indiana, right next to Chicago.
But it doesn't matter. But they have the gun laws, and it's not working. 4,000.
That's why we have to do it at the federal level, because Chicago did it at the local level.
What's your solution for Chicago?
Let's start with things like having uniform laws, 7-day waiting period, background check.
That's not going to stop Chicago.
Absolutely. It will start, how about we start cutting it down on it instead of saying, we can't do anything.
I didn't say that.
Absolutely. Let's take approaches. Let's get rid of anything that automates them.
And see what the big causes are. And absolutely, a shot up from Mandalay Bay
would
be something that they could do.
Across straight lines without a proper permit.
Can we agree that, I mean, Chicago would be even worse if they had access to even more semi-automatic weapons
people could
and
carry
automatic
that across
weapons?
the state line, too. I mean,
that's
these
why
are
we need to have
complex
federal
problems.
regulations,
and
not state and
anytime
local
politicians
regulations.
get together, they're all going to sing Kumbaya, White House ceremony, and one little thing, and they're not going to talk about the explosives.
You brought it up. How about what happened after Oklahoma City? We did start putting in processes to track explosives,
what happened?
and it has worked out. How many big bombings have you heard about?
How did this guy get this?
How did he? That's the question. We have to
That's
find
what we
out.
need to find out.
That's right.
Shouldn't the president be taking the lead on this here? I mean, at first he refused to even say anything about gun control when pressed on it. And now he seems to be saying, well, maybe the White House can work across the aisle and figure out something. Should we get a stronger sense from the president on this?
Yeah, I think you will, but I think rushing to judgment never solves any problems, because politicians love for the first easy fix, and they miss the big solution. So I think there are many solutions to this, and it has to be looked at in steps, not rush to judgment.
I have one solution that my Republican friends generally agree with me on, and that is we need a great increase in mental health spending and access to mental health services. That's addressing the violence issue that is in our culture.
We still don't know what was behind this. Obviously, he was ill, but we still don't know what the trigger was to him, and I don't disagree with that. But again, the other thing is, see something, say something. How many people knew this person? He had a live-in girlfriend, I believe. She went to the Philippines. I can't take out $5,000 from a bank without being questioned. Somehow he sent $100,000 to the Philippines. A lot of questions.
What is it about gun owners, not all of them, but many of them, that are absolutely convinced that if the NRA or anybody else allows the government to regulate any part of it, that the logical next step is the government's going to bang down your door and take away your guns? Why do people believe that?
I don't know. I can't speak for that. I actually own 2 handguns in our home, and we had our home broken into. That's why we had guns. And in Connecticut, we can carry. So I'm very pleased with that.
But you're not afraid that any future administration is going to come take away your guns, are you?
I'm not afraid that well, I think they may restrict my purchase of an X gun. That's one of my concerns. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I went out and got a pistol, was I was afraid they're going to restrict my ability to buy my handgun.
And I think we ought to put a tax on ammunition now, too.
You know, to your initial point, Tom, about, you know, why didn't hotel security see something? Why didn't they get access to the room? They had a do not disturb sign on. Do we want hotel security snooping through our things? You know, I mean,
well,
we got to ask that question.
When hotel is putting in metal detectors, that's a private business decision. The maid service is usually in your room once a day. I mean, so why, if 3 days, 4 days in Vegas, no good's going to happen in a room where nobody's been in? So I think that's up to the hotel. Really, policy is good for their business.
But I mean, there are ways around that too. I mean, he could have had it in a duffel bag. He could have been in a case. I mean, you don't know until to put it on hotel staff, I mean, might be a little intrusive or unreasonable.
No, I don't think it's reasonable. I think it's a voluntary effort that would be in their best interest. It's not a fail-safe, absolutely. But the ability to carry that many guns in there and that much munitions could have been mitigated. I'm not saying it's their fault. I'm saying moving forward, there should be something that should be looked at.
Before we let you go, I got to ask you, I mean, it's now been 4 days since the worst U.S. mass shooting in our history, and they still don't yet have a clear motive. Are you surprised?
I'm not. What's interesting is from the moment this happened, everything about it was odd. In terms of it doesn't fit a pattern. Yeah. So we have patterns normally. Yeah, it really, really is. So I'm not at all upset with not knowing all that information yet. I know law enforcement is working really hard at it, and I'm going to be patient till we find those.
Patient, you see, as long as they get it right. That's
but it does seem to add, in the meantime, to some of the conspiracy theorists.
That's the problem.
I have no place
I've seen a lot.
Yeah.
And, you know, I want to see the data first before I come to any judgment.
All right, Tom Borelli, Ethan Bierman, great to have you both on. Thanks so much, appreciate it. Coming up, new concerns for Catalonia.
As the region prepares to